Okay, so we're going to dive into this really fascinating idea about deception. The source for this explainer argues that a lie isn't just, well, a lie. It's something that carries its own unavoidable consequence, a weight that you start feeling the very moment you tell it.
So let me ask you, what do you think is the true cost of a lie? I mean, most of us, right, we immediately think about the external stuff, getting caught, losing someone's trust. But what if the biggest, most significant cost is actually internal? Something that's just an inescapable part of the act itself.
And that's where we get to the heart of this whole thing. Look at the wording here. It's a burden that clings to the person. This isn't some potential punishment down the road. No, it's a judgment that's carried inside the lie itself. The effect is immediate.
Now, to make sure this doesn't just stay some abstract idea, the author gives us this one really powerful example. Think of it like a blueprint, an archetype for how this whole principle works, and how it plays out in a foundational story. Now, the story is probably one you know, and it's laid out super simply here. A deception happens, someone believes it, and boom, a consequence follows. But, and this is the key, the text adds this little detail that completely shifts our focus. We stop looking at the person who was deceived and start looking at the one who did the deceiving. And this is the real kicker. The one who started the lie couldn't escape the consequences. The source even says the trap they laid ensnared its own author. So you see, this isn't about some outside force punishing them. It's about an inescapable law that affects the person who starts the whole thing.
So that brings us back to the big question, right? If this consequence is so inevitable, how does it actually work? Well, the source gives us this incredible metaphor to explain it. I mean, think about it. A shadow isn't some separate thing that just decides to tag along. It's a direct, inseparable consequence of your form blocking the light. This is exactly how the source sees judgment. It's the natural shadow that is cast by the act of deception. You literally can't have one without the other. And just so we're all on the same page, when the text uses the word judgment, it's not talking about, a judge with a gavel. It's more like a law of nature. It's the effect that has to follow a cause. It's the harvest you're going to reap from the seeds of falsehood you planted.
Okay, so what is that effect? What is the shadow actually made of? The text gets into the nitty-gritty of that internal cost, the mechanism that creates that whole burden we talked about at the beginning.
Here it is, the root cause. Falsehood fractures your alignment. The very act of living a lie creates this crack in your alignment with reality itself. It's like a splinter in your own integrity, a break between what's real and what you're trying to sell to the world. And that fracture, that feeling of being out of step with reality, it leads to two things, inevitably. First, you get a weight. And that's the mental gymnastics, right? The energy it takes to keep the lie going, that constant fear of being found out. And second, you get a loss of trust in yourself, a loss of your own authenticity, and at the end of the day, a loss of real connection with other people.
So once you really get this principle that deception casts its own heavy shadow, it all leads to one place, the final takeaway. It's not just an interesting idea, it's laying out a fundamental choice for us.
And the author puts it right to us, a direct appeal. It's all framed as this active choice about what kind of vessel you want to be. Are you going to be one that carries falsehood with all that weight attached, or are you going to choose sincerity and truth? So when you look at it like this, the choice is pretty stark, isn't it? To be a vessel of falsehood means you're signing up for the whole package, the fractured alignment, the burden, the weight, the loss. The other path, sincerity and truth, well, that implies the exact opposite, integrity, a sense of lightness, and being aligned with what's actually real.
So I want to leave you with this question. If that feeling of judgment, that weight, that sense of loss, is just a shadow, then something has to be casting it, right? A form has to be there. So the real question becomes, what forms, what deceptions, big or small, might be casting those shadows in our own lives? It's a really powerful thing to think about.
Everything we've talked about in this explainer comes from excerpts of The Weight of Deception and the Shadow of Judgment by his witness T.L. Cent. Thanks so much for joining me.